You know, Governor John Lynch announced this past week that the state actually ended in a surplus, $13.8 million on June 30th. That's pretty notable news since the state budget, the Republican budget that the legislature put together about 15 months ago, assumed we would end this first year with a $14 million deficit. How did we do it? A lot of ways, but the most fundamental one that's really simple to understand is $18 million from the previous fiscal year that didn't get spent. By carrying that past surplus forward, that essentially eliminated the deficit on paper and created this $14 million surplus. And there were attempts, you may recall, to use that leftover money from the previous year. House Speaker Bill O'Brien wanted to put it into the rainy day fund, said it was a responsible thing not to actually spend it, but to put it in the savings account for the future. The state Senate rejected that move at the urging of Governor John Lynch, and for him politically it's a good thing the state Senate, the Republican controlled body, did what he asked them to do, or otherwise we would have ended the year in a deficit. But let's move forward and see how things look for the second part of this two-year state budget. And the answer is not great. If you look at the ledger, there's almost a $50 million hole in this budget. What's it made up of? You got the Medicaid managed care program that was supposed to save $16 million in state spending. It hasn't even started yet, and it's probably not going to start in January like they thought. So at least $10 to $12 million of that savings is not going to occur before the books close on June 30th. Then you've got the $18 million payment the state has to make to the Obama administration based on a 2004 audit regarding Medicaid reimbursements that were too high. Finally, you've got the $21 million in shortfall payments from the hospitals under the Medicaid enhancement tax. That was $20 million this past year. There's every reason to expect they're going to claim their net revenues are that much less this year. So that brings you to more than $50 million, especially if you include another $5 million they intend to add for charter schools because the State Board of Education put a moratorium on the program because there wasn't enough money going forward. There are some pluses on the balance sheet, and one of them was I just talked about. If you assume there was a $14 million deficit, now there's actually a $13.8 million surplus. That gives you a little cushion there. But there's no question this budget is going to be very tight. And even John Lynch called it very difficult, but manageable. But the next governor, job one for the next governor, whoever that is going to be to put together a budget for the next 2 years, because they got to present one to the legislature by the middle of February next year.